Good afternoon, my name is SBrennan. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Today I'll be walking you through my design process and how I created these final models. The first assignment I was tasked with was drawing 18 contour hand drawings. With this assignment, I wanted to explore the different mediums, drawing styles, and positions of hands to get as many different results as possible. Here are some with graphite, these are with marker and crayon, and these are with ink. The sketch in the bottom left corner is the one that I modeled my wire hand after. Here's that wire hand with a few finger studies. The wire hand translated that 2D sketch into a 3D model. After this, I explored the relationship between the wire hand and the shadows that can be created by it. I experimented with changing the orientation of the hand and position of the light source, which offered new perspectives. I then revisited the idea of regulating lines to find order within the wire hand. This broke down the different parts of the hand and showed their relationships to one another, as well as narrowing in on some of the more detailed parts of the hand. As I moved into designing the bounding box, here are some design terms that I kept in mind. Rhythm and symmetry I incorporated into the framework of the bounding box. Transparency related to the cladding that went around the bounding box, and contrast relates to all the different materials that I used. To start planning out my bounding box, I began with creating corner studies. This assignment made me really think outside the box because I wanted to create unique designs for corners rather than just having 3 members come together at one point. Therefore, I experimented with layering different sizes of the wood pieces, and then I created a sketch as well as digital drawings of each. Here are some journal pages that I kept throughout this project. They show my process, notes, and planning for the box, and later a pedestal and room. And here's a 3D rendering of the bounding box in Rhino. I originally pieced each of my 4 corner studies together and created a box from that, but I realized that it was a little too complicated and there weren't enough meaningful relationships between the pieces, so it eventually evolved into this design. And here is a GIF and a step-by-step assembly for the box. This really broke down the process for making the bounding box and showed the relationships between the components and how they all come together. This was probably one of the most time-consuming assignments, but in the end it was really helpful in showing me how this all comes together. And I'll let that GIF play all the way through. Here's a bit of planning that I did before adding cladding to my box. I played around with different methods for attaching the cladding, and I ended up using a little bit of threading as well as folding the edges of the cladding around the edges of the box. This is a digital version of the cladding partnered with a diagram. Openings in the cladding frame different viewpoints to the wire hand, and solid claddings hold the shadows. I incorporated some layering of the cladding as well as wooden members to support the edges. Next, I created some section views of the bounding box. This first set of section views is a little bit more of a figure ground composition where the figures are the wooden members of the box. But here's a more traditional version of the section views along with a 3D model showing those cuts. Next, I designed a 10x10 space and a pedestal for the bounding box to be displayed on. Here's a storyboard that shows a walkthrough around the space. The layout of the room is similar to a temple, and the pedestal sits inside the walls so that light and shadow from the bounding box are continued onto the surrounding walls. I designed the walls of the room to conceal the pedestal from the outside viewer, but the bounding box can still be seen. I did this so that they slowly reveal the final assembly. They show just enough to the viewer that they know that there's something there, but they don't know quite what it is until fully inside. Here are some more renderings of that room with a scale figure inside, as well as the design for the pedestal, which was meant to resemble the bounding box and the different openings in the cladding. Lastly, here's a fully constructed bounding box with cladding, as well as the wire hand configured inside. The light source at the bottom projected the shadows onto the surrounding cladding. On the back side of the bounding box, horizontal members can be removed to reveal the shadows underneath it. The wire hand was placed inside the box so that the fingers would be creeping over that top edge. And here are some close-up shots looking into the box through smaller openings between the frames and the cladding. Thank you.